everyone, and welcome to my first sketchbook tour. I've been wanting to do this for a while now, just because I always think it's nice to go through your old work and to see where you were at versus your style today. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm great at speaking, but I'm just going to try my best and walk you guys through page by page of this sketchbook. So this is a Strathmore mixed media sketchbook, and I have to say this is probably my favorite sketchbook out of the ones that I've tried so far, just because of the way it handles so many different mediums and it just holds up really nicely. My first page, I think I was just testing the cheap watercolors I had at the time. Here I was trying to come up with motifs for a tropical themed pattern collection I was putting together. Looking back at this now, I can remember how much I was struggling with layering the paint. Again, just some motifs to go with that tropical collection. Overall, I was really happy with just the color palette that I chose. Actually, I don't think I ever finished that collection. I think a lot of the scans I did are just still sitting somewhere on my computer. Here I was trying to practice self-portraits, like loose self-portraits. I didn't want to have to think too much about it, and I always find it fascinating how people can work with paint just straight on the paper without sketching first. I was just playing around with drawing some birdies. I really like this bird right here. He's my favorite. So I had this concept in my head, and these pages are me trying to work out that concept. So I did a couple rough thumbnail sketches, and then I kind of worked on more of the colors and the individual like florals and other pieces that I wanted to include within the actual final piece. I really love the outdoors and nature, so that was the inspiration for this idea. I guess I was still trying to work on another self-portrait, or I didn't know what to do that day. This one, I remember there was a fire. There's many fires in California, but that day I remember driving home from work, and the sky was just looked so sad and dark and gloomy. Practicing again for that garden piece. I wanted it to be, anatomically correct. Obviously it still doesn't look anatomically right, but this was me trying to get some more practice in before painting on the larger piece. I had so many of those like cheap basic acrylic paints, and I just wanted to use them loosely and play around with color palettes, and I ended up really liking this page. I don't think I made any sketches before, or I think it was a very loose like gestural sketch, and then I just took some thick acrylic paint and quickly painted over it. This page just kind of looks like I'm trying to fill up a page for the sake of filling it up. I really don't know what possessed me to start or to draw animals. I'm kind of like terrified of drawing animals. My first project in my illustration class had to do with drawing animals, and it came out terrible, so I think that just kind of threw me off, and just because of that I wasn't interested in drawing animals. But I was really happy with these little guys down here. Actually, I love this one especially, with his little derpy face, and they're so cute. Who doesn't love Spirited Away? I think I was inspired, of course, after watching the movie again, to do some really simple studies, and again practice with some more acrylic paints. On this page I was trying to create like a frame out of whatever it is I was painting. created just, the negative space around the flowers. I had a lot of fun on this page. It's a pretty common exercise. If you don't know what to draw, you just start off by painting like blobs or shapes on a page, and then you let it dry and you come back to it and you kind of find something within the shape. It's kind of like, looking at clouds and seeing different, objects, animals, or people, and you draw based on what you see from the shape. I really like this, but I just can't remember who I was trying to paint. I'm probably going to remember it after I look into it more. Me using more tape because I just love that feeling of ripping the tape off and just having those clean lines. Still really love this as a concept. My love for nature kind of came out in this, and at the time I had I guess at that time I must have had my blue teal hair, which is why I painted myself in it. It looks like I didn't know what to do that day, so I was just scribbling, trying to put anything on paper. This is where I started a Skillshare class. So the first day, I believe, was journey, and this was like the first thing that came in my mind. There was no other like concept or vision I saw. I love the simplicity and the colors, and I feel like it still kind of tells a story in a way. This became like one of my favorite pages in my sketchbook. You started by kind of scribbling or just making loose shapes, like a contour shape with one big line, and then again like looking at clouds, like what do you see within those shapes. I saw like a school of fish, and I just love this page so much. I love how I layered the watercolors. I feel like after this page I just felt kind of like accomplished because of how I used the paints and the colors together. This page was inspired by, I'm pretty sure I found this image on Pinterest. I was really, really happy with how this one turned out. And this was day 3 of that Skillshare challenge. The prompt was to slow down and not to rush the movements. I did some quick marker portraits. This was the next day of that Skillshare challenge. I don't remember exactly the prompt name. Cute little buggies. Day 5 was metamorphosis. Now, I really loved the concept and idea I had in my head, but I was just not happy at all with how this came out. Yeah, and after making this piece, I realized I just really love drawing bugs and insects. Like, they're so interesting to look at. They have such cool patterns on them, and I just find them pretty fascinating. I'm assuming it was around Halloween. It must have been for me to have chosen those colors, because it's very unlike me. The next day in the Skillshare challenge was crowd of creatures, and the Halloween colors must have inspired me to make these little ghost guys. Here's just more practice with flowers. And this next day the prompt was colors of your day. I don't really know what that day was about for me to have chosen these colors, but I knew I just wanted to draw like a cluster of random people, just practice with faces again. This was another day where I just painted loose blobs or shapes and used marker around it. This page with the hands I really, really, really love still to this day. It's one of my favorite pages in all of my sketchbooks, and I really like the second hand from the top that looks like it's begging for something or asking for something. I was really happy with the anatomy of it. Like, I think I did a pretty good job for being such a loose painting. Day 10, the prompt was thread. When I read that word, I immediately thought, like, okay, what does thread do? It holds things together, it ties things together. I thought of like a thread tying two people together. This next day was transforming, and I guess my mind was still stuck or set on that metamorphosis day. It was a chance to remake that first piece that I just did not like. And this one, I just wish I could go back and not have this in my sketchbook at all, because I just don't like it. I find it so strange. I think I was trying to go for like some Wizard of Oz theme, and I just hate it. I don't like it at all. I wish it wasn't in my sketchbook, so let's stop talking about that. I did not realize how many butterflies I have spread out throughout this sketchbook. I was really on a butterfly kick. I do really like this one actually, and I feel like it has potential to go somewhere. And this was the final day of that Skillshare challenge. At this point, I think I was just kind of over it and ready for it to be done. I really don't know what inspired this one. When I look at it now, I just think of like arteries or just blood vessels. It's kind of cool. This page, at the time I was a nanny for another family, and the child I was taking care of wanted to paint in my sketchbook, so I let him kind of paint loosely in the back, and then I painted over it. I think that's what happened on this one. And then I asked him what I should paint next, and he said frogs, and so that's why this next page is filled with frogs. I think these little guys are pretty cute, especially this rainbow one down here. The same thing happened on the next couple pages. I think that's a pretty cool exercise to do, to just paint loosely, and once it dries, do line work over it. To get better at portraits, I was trying to work on like the individual parts of the face in order to kind of be better at creating the whole, I guess. And this one looks pretty wonky, this red portrait, but I really loved the blue one at the bottom, especially just the nose, like how it's just one color and it doesn't have like a lot of value in it, it's just flat. I think it's pretty interesting. I just love the expression on her face. I was looking through a book of art, or specifically Matisse, and I loved this painting, so I wanted to recreate it. This was inspired by a picture I saw on Pinterest. I love how this turned out because I went into this page not pressuring myself to do a lot in terms of sketching. Most of it was just, I went straight into it with watercolors, and I was so happy with how this turned out. Like the value in the collar, and like the texture of the watercolor, and the background that I made out of leaves. This cute koala, I think it was part of Inktober. I'm not really sure, but I think because I was limited to just black and focusing on building up the colors that it turned out really nice. It was Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and I just figured it was a good opportunity to draw him, practice my portraits, and just be loose with it and play around with kind of like a new technique. And I really like it. I think it's a good finish to the sketchbook, and I'm happy that it's in here. That's all of it. I hope you enjoyed going through that with me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you another time.